Namaste. Continuing our blissful enjoying of Sri Krishna's name in Srimad Bhagavad Geetha, in today's episode we are going to look at Vishveshwara, which appears in chapter 11, sloka 16. The sloka is like this.
Aneka bahudharavaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvatonantarupam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami vishveshwara vishwarupa.
So in this sloka, actually Arjuna, 11th chapter is all about Vishwarupa of Sri Krishna, right? He shows himself in all his complete rupam. And anybody who sees is going to be aghast. So is Arjuna, completely aghast, completely bewildered by the scale and magnitude of what he is saying. He is just stuck for want of words. Then praying for mercy, because when you see something of that magnitude, beyond bhakti, beyond bewilderment, there is something else happens in one. And that's what Arjuna is going through right now. And he says, you know what, Krishna, I am seeing you are Sarvaloga Maheswara. I am seeing all the 7 lokas above and all the 7 lokas below. I am seeing that you are the one who doesn't have an adi or an anta, a start or an end. This is an outstanding vision that you have given me, O Krishna. And he is going on praising Sri Krishna and telling what he is seeing. He is seeing all the 7 lokas, as I said, above and below. He even sees Brahma, the Chaturmukha Brahma. He sees the Sarvaloka. He sees everything. In that context, he is completely in awe and completely awestruck. And he says, oh Vishveshwara. Vishveshwara, as he says, is one who is all-pervading, who is there omnipresent, who is omnipotent, and as a Sarvaloka Maheswara is the Lord of everything. So that is the scale and size of which we are seeing Krishna in his Vishwarupa, and so is Arjuna in his awe recites this sloka. So when Arjuna says Vishveshwara and Sarvaloka Maheswara, we will all fondly recollect our previous episode, chapter 5, 29 sloka, and chapter 11 and 16 sloka now, which has a connection where in that sloka, in that chapter, Arjuna says Sarvaloka Maheswara. In this chapter, he says Vishveshwara, which more or less says the same meaning, which is saying, I am everything, I am the Lord of everything. Now, there are a lot of exciting things, as I said in the earlier episode. Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the must-read in all our homes. Srimad Bhagavatam, besides giving the Puranic instances, besides stating the greatness of the Lord, it also has a lot of scientific wealth of information that all of us can read, all of us can transfer this knowledge to our children and the next generation, because that is the pure science which is proven. As I said, both loka and aloka. What human mind can perceive is also mentioned, what human mind cannot perceive is also mentioned with clear facts. So once we read that in detail, then you get a lot more knowledge which we can share it with the others and be proud about what we know. At the same time, all this information is beautifully sugar-coated with amazing Puranic instances that we love to enjoy, both as a bedtime story or just a story to share with our next kith and kin, very importantly the children. One such story that comes to our mind when we read Srimad Bhagavatam is Aghasura Vadam. As we know, Lord Krishna always faced a lot of enemies and who are always in a disguise they were trying to attack Sri Krishna. We know the Bhutanas, we know a lot of others who did. Aghasura also is another Asura who takes the form of a giant python, so huge, and keeps the mouth wide open that looks like as though it's a still statue or something like we see in today's fun centers. So the children that are playing, the Gopas who are playing around with Krishna, think it is a play toy and walks into Aghasura's mouth willingly. But Aghasura is waiting not to close his mouth because he wants only one prey, which is Krishna. He is not bothered about these children. But the children first land inside. Krishna sees he's all pervading, he knows what's happening. He then destroys Aghasura, saves the children, and in the process also blesses Aghasura with Sadgadi. So once that is done, the children doesn't even know what has happened. They think it's a plaything. They walked into Aghasura, they've been saved by Krishna without knowing anything, no pain, nothing. They're very happy. And it's lunchtime. The children there, when it says children, Krishna himself is about 5 years old, so everybody is 5-6-year-old children who are basically doing cattle raising out there. The cattle is all grazing around them, and these children are just playing, whiling away the time while the cattle is feeding themselves. While they are doing this, it's lunchtime. So Krishna is happily eating food with every Gopa. Okay, he goes to every child, asks them to give food. He, without any hesitation, he eats all the food. Krishna loves food. We all know how we celebrate Janmashtami with so much of food around us. You contrast, you look at Ram Navami, we just make a very simple dish. People fast in Ram Navami. But for Janmashtami, it's feasting. Just as that, Sri Krishna is always a lover of food. He enjoys eating as much as he can. So he in fact enjoys the way it is that he takes all the side dishes in all the gaps in his finger, keeps the food here, eats like this one, like this very, very unique way he tries to eat. Suddenly, as people are eating, Brahma from Satyaloka is watching all this in awe. I am doing penance to invite Krishna to my house once and to offer him food. And here is Sri Krishna happily eating amongst common men, children who doesn't even know what is right hand, what is left hand, who doesn't know how to offer food to God, to a Sarvaloga Maheswara. But see how lucky they are, and he's very happy. So he's so immersed in joy. Suddenly he says, let me play around something with Krishna. While children and Krishna are eating here, he quietly takes all the cattle into his Satyaloka without anybody knowing. Children after food, they just suddenly see that noise is not coming, because grazing cattle will make some noise, right? So they look around and say they find no cattle. So Krishna, all our cattle is missing, what to do? Krishna knows what's happening. He says, don't worry, let me go and search. So he asks the children to eat, and he continue eating, and he walks around with the same food eating like this and goes in search of the cattle while fully knowing what has happened. While he comes back, Brahma by the time has also taken the children away. So it's all empty space. Krishna thinks for a while, okay, so Brahma, that's what you want to play, so let's play. So quietly, he creates the entire cattle and all the children in exactly the same way. If a cow was half brown, half white, it was the same way. If there is a calf which is this particular dimension, the calf is there. And you talk about numbers. And the children, however their dimensions were there, however they were structured, 20, 30, 40, 50 children were just reproduced like that. How did he do this? He became himself. Krishna himself became the cattle, Krishna himself became the child. He was so Sarvaloka Maheswara, right? So he himself made himself available as cattle and children and went back home to the respective homes. Now what happened now? He as that's the child, he as the cattle goes to each of the respective houses and ties the cattle in its own shed. Now comes back to the mother and takes the food that the mother gives, and the best part, goes and keeps the water, normally what we feed for the cattle, and as the cattle, Krishna himself takes the same food in every house in that village, in Gokulam. So that's what Sri Krishna does, and this happens not just one day, 2 days, it happens for a year, because Srimad Bhagavatam says, Brahma completed this whole process in a kshana. Brahma Shana in our terms in earth is probably 365 days, it's 1 full year. So it takes 1 full year, and by the time when Brahma comes back to see how Krishna is reacting to all this, he finds every cattle, everybody the same way, they are doing the daily duty. He says, how is that possible? And then he again closes his eyes and says, Krishna, help me handle this. How does this happen? I thought I had the children and the cattle with me in Satyaloka. When he was doing the penance, Krishna shows himself up in every child, in every cattle, as with the Sangha Chakra Gadadhari, with all Tulasi Mala and everything, and as blessing Brahma, because Brahma is praying. He is even showing that part to Brahma himself, and Brahma just says, this is bliss I want, this is what I was looking for. Hey Krishna, hey Sarvaloka Maheswara, hey Vishweshwara, this is exactly what I want, is what Brahma is now very happy, and accepting Krishna's blessings, he brings back all the children and cattle, and Krishna himself comes back to his own form, so that the actual children and cattle are back in the field. Now this, as we know, has completed 1 full cycle of a year. Now children continue where they left last year, continue eating the same food and continuing their blissful enjoyment, and goes back home and tells their parents about Agasaravadam only now after 1 full year. Because Agasaravada happened 1 year before, this Leela happened in between. Now children are going back home and reciting the Agasaravada and say how Krishna handled the whole thing. They are very happy to explain. Now what it says, this Bhagavata Purana mentions is, Sri Krishna is all pervading. He is Vishweshwara. He is in you, he is in me, he is in everything, he is everywhere. He has proven this many times, both as a Leela, both as to save somebody. Because we saw he is a Suhrit. He is our closest friend we can ever think of. When Draupadi wanted sari, he was there giving sari. He will protect us, any of us, irrespective of what happens, as long as we treat him as our closest friend. He is our only closest friend that we have. So that Sri Krishna as Vishweshwara, let us recite his names and be happy. Namaste.
Madhavachyuda Krishna Hare Rishikesha Keshava Govinda Vasudeva Bhagavan Janardana